Hello, welcome to my channel. This is Adrian, and as you can see, today we're going to try to do an Eclipse card. As a matter of fact, 6 of them. So I did a lot of prep work as far as I got my panels pre-cut, I got my base cards pre-cut, and I started to set things up. Now ignore that mother stamp. I'm not going to be using it. I am just going to be using the Tranquil Tides and Tranquil Tulips, the M and the O, and some sentiments from the My Hero Arts March 2018 kit, as well as some Stampin' Up! Inks, and I'll try to point them out as I go by. Now, what I did to set up is I took 2 pieces of scrap paper that were about 1 inch wide, and I taped them to the side of my Hampton Perfection stamping tool in order to have it kind of sit in the middle but also be easy to line up. As you can see, I'd already prearranged the stems onto the card, or I'm sorry, onto the stamping tool, and I am just currently I'm using I started off with twisted lemon lime twist, and then I did a second layer with Old Olive. Both of those are Stampin' Up! Inks. Some of them might be in colors that are no longer available, so you just use whatever green inks you want. But this was very simple. Having everything lined up works out, and I just simply cleaned up my stamps as I went along and put them back on the paper, and then I pulled out the large and the small tulip. Now this is a 2-step stamp, which means that it takes 2 steps to get the finished image. So I am starting with the first step, and it's the solid of it, and it doesn't stamp as solid. It's going to look splotchy, but that's the way it's supposed to look. So I don't know if you can see that. But I'm just going to do 3 colors. This one is So Saffron. And then I did, see if I showed you another one. I believe I did. I'm sorry, I have sped this video up so fast. It's that Sweet Sugar Plum, and then the other color is pink, powder pink. And as I kept moving along, I just kept moving the stamps along. This is very easy to do. I just simply moved the large and the small stamp to different stems and did the same process over and over again. So you're going to notice that the cards are kind of, you're going to get bits and pieces of each of the cards as I'm going forward with this. So now I have started the second layer of the big tulip, but I'm still working on the first step of the little tulip. So you see those going together. I did not get the large tulip positioned just right, but you know, I was not worrying about that today. Today I was letting everything fall the way it falls. So if there was a mistake, I was working around it instead of starting all over, and just trying to not be so focused on perfection. And as you can see, with the second large tulip, I didn't line it up any better than the first, but that's okay. The small tulip is still lined up well. Now, once I had done all the large tulips on all of them, there was no need to really do this positioning tool, because all I had left was this 2 small one. So I put the second step on a block. So this whole card could be done on a block. And I just simply went color by color and finished stamping each of those out. And it's super easy to line up. I loved how all of my little ones just fell right into line. And then next, I just mounted up the leaves. Again, I'm using blocks and not the precision tool. None of the leaves actually ended up on the same spot. Now you can see that I was using lemon lime twist and Old Olive. Now I gotta tell you, I did not love the Old Olive, but we are living with what we have. So I have a small, medium, and a large leaf on different blocks, and I'm just placing the leaves just wherever. So now I'm just doing the twisted lemon lime twist. Please forgive me for the leaves. I really liked that softness, and you can kind of see through it, and it looked good. I liked it. But again, you use any green that you have. And I think I showed you all of the cards for this process just to kind of show you how easy it is, how it could all be done on the block. It doesn't all have to have the leaves in the same position. Just whatever looks good for you. And then I took some early espresso, and there's 2 sets of stamens, a large set and a small set. And I just put the large set on one side of the block and the small set on the other. And I just went to town putting the stamens in all of the tulips. And I have to say, I love the Tranquil Tulips kit. I think it's been discontinued. I don't think it was a hostess gift for Stampin' Up, and I'm not even sure you can get it, at least not after this month. But at any rate, just pick a flower. It doesn't have to be what I use. Pick a flower. So now I'm doing the mom. And so I just had the letters, and I was trying to figure out it's off camera, but what I'm doing is I'm using the ruler that's on the bottom of the stamping tool to figure out the center line, and then I'm lining it up. I pull out my T ruler to kind of get it straight and lined up exactly where I wanted it to be, and then when I was happy with it, which takes just a second, I also wanted to make sure that I would like where the M fell on the other side, that I was going to enjoy the whole mom, and then shut the door. They're mounted. So for the M and the O and the M, I'm going to be using VersaFine Black Onyx. I wanted a really bold pigment ink because it's going to be laying on top of the dye inks. And I mean, look at how that just pops. That is just so bold. I love it. So I just do that with 4 of the cards. You'll see that I'm doing 4 with the words mom on it, and then 4 are going to say you are amazing, and those just to go to different people. So when I got through with the M and the O, it was time to put the M on the other side, and I realized in hindsight that I probably should have left. I had already cleaned off and taken off the stamps, and I probably should have left the O on and tried to position it on the M on the other side. But I'm just gonna let you watch me fiddle with it, because it is a process, and it's all about lining it up. So I get it to where I think I like it, and then I put it on the door, and I remove the O, and I ink it up, and I'm checking it before I stamp it, and it was down just a little bit, so cleaned off the stamp, and then this time I just lined up with the bottom. I realized that the bottom of the M would be touching my T ruler, so I could just line up with the bottom of the letters. Now, it is a little bit closer to the O than the other M, but we are living with how things fall into place, and we are not fixing things today. And in the end, that actually worked out to be a good thing, and you'll see when we get to the die cutting part. So now I've got my Hero Arts, again, I think it's March 2018 kit out, and I have the words you are an amazing, but the U is a solid banner, and then the YOU is actually clear, if that makes any sense, and it's not the look I was going for. So I pulled out another stamp set and used the word U out of that, but then I was like, all of the letters are capital except for the U. YOU is small letters, and that didn't quite fit. And by this time my daughter was down here, and I don't know if she's already sneaked the wave in or not, and we're just going through the stamps trying to figure out what we could use. And then she came across the missing U, and that U was the perfect U that I needed. So yay, Grace, thank you. So I mounted up the R, awesome. I've been saying amazing, but it's awesome. And then what I did is I just taped off the word missing. Now, this has a dotted border. I don't think you can see it, and I was going to try to tape that off, but that just wasn't going to work. So what I've done is take a baby wipe, and again, I'm sorry, I'm off camera, and I'm wiping down the edge. I'm wiping down that dotted border because I don't want that. I just simply want the YOU. So I got that all cleaned off. I found a piece of scrap paper. I made sure that none of the dots came off on it. Put it to the paper, and then I was like, what if I have to stamp it again? So I didn't touch it. I pulled out my Inkadinkadoo stamp repositioning tool, but it was all right. I didn't have to restamp it, and in all fairness, I probably wouldn't have lined it up right anyway. So I got the R Awesome again being stamped up, and now I'm just going to repeat the same thing. I'm going to tape over the word miss and then ink it up. Remove the tape, that's incredibly important. Clean off the border around the word you, and check it on the scrap paper and line it up. Stamp it, put the tool there just in case, but again, it turned out just fine. I did not feel like I needed to go back, and I was grateful for that. So there we go. That is the 6 cards, and it's a whirlwind of experience, but there we go. Now later on that night, I took my stitch rectangle dies, and I used the grid that's on the stamping tool to nest them in such a way that they would be even on all the sides. And there's 2 different sizes because my stamp area took up 2 different sized areas. At this time, I was sitting here thinking of my friend Pentabulous Mama, who just got the Brother Scan and Cut, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this would have been a good time to have that. But this worked out good too. And so I just lined everything up and then just gently tacked it and ran it through my die machine. And then what I did is I flipped it over and I put masking tape on the back because I wanted the paper to stay together intact for right now because I wasn't quite done with it. As you can see in the top mom, I ended up putting some additional little flowers there because there was just too much white space. There was too much opening. So I took the open-ended flower from the Tranquil Tulips stamp set, mounted it to my small block, and then using the same ink colors that I had used for the tulips themselves, just randomly stamped it. I didn't pay attention to whether or not it had a stem. Some of them are floating in midair, but that's okay. And then I grabbed my Magic Fly markers because I wanted to try spritzing. I had never spritzed before, but Dina Rico from the Creativity Den is always spritzing. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try spritzing. And you can see I test my markers to make sure that it's really not ruining them, and it really isn't. So I flipped over to a clean side of the paper, and I just went to town spritzing. So it does go everywhere. As a matter of fact, sometimes I had a hard time making it hit the paper, but in the end it was a lot of fun. I had very inky, messy hands, and any crafter would tell you that's happiness right there when you have inky, messy hands. And then I would go in with the stamp and I would just add the little flower any place I felt like I just wanted a little bit more filling. So, and it didn't matter. Sometimes I did it before the spritzing, sometimes I did it after. I just kind of had fun and just stamped and spritzed until I was happy with the way it looked. So, I don't think I showed you another one. Nope. Okay, so here is a mistake that I made. You know how I'm always telling you that I have all of my card fronts pre-cut to 5.5 by 4.25? Well, I had to trim it down in order to give me the border around the card, which meant that I had to trim after all the stamping, which normally isn't a problem. But today, the mom was no longer in the center. Some of the edges were not quite as even, but we are working with it because in the end, it's still a handmade card. There's still hours and hours and hours of your time and thought and love and prayer and everything else goes into it. And, perfection is for machines. We're humans. So I didn't worry about that. I just continued to move forward. So I glued down the outer and the inner layer, and then I put foam, um, double-sided foam tape on the middle layer so that it would pop up, and that's what gives you the eclipse. That's the eclipse procedure. And so you saw me just kind of putting down blocks, but that's another reason why I kind of wanted to keep everything together, because it helps with lining it up. If you just did it one layer at a time, you run the risk that the outside layer that's thinner could get a little bit wonky. So the procedure was just the same for all of them. I just gently took the tape off, positioned all three layers together on the card where I wanted it to be, used my pokey tool when I needed to help move it around, and then very carefully you just take off the outer layer. I found that using a block kind of kept the middle two layers exactly where they were without moving, and then just a couple of dots of glue on the back, and then line it up. And it's so easy to line up because you have all the lines and the flowers and everything, and then just pop out the middle and put a little bit of glue on that, and then it will just slide right back in. And again, lining it up is so easy. Once you've done that, you just put a block on it to hold it down while it dries, and you can put the foam tape on the middle layer. And I cut the foam tape in half because I wanted really thin strips, because when you look through the sides of it, you can see the cardstock from underneath, and I didn't want to lose that with the foam tape being visible. So I cut it in half just to make the strips a little bit skinnier, and it worked out really well. I don't know if you can really see it in the video, but in real life you can see just the shadowing of the cardstock underneath. So the yellow cardstock or pink or purple all pops up, and it was a lot of fun to do. It truly was. So there is the cards. I left the inside of them blank, so I'm going to give you a little preview. Look at my workstation. That is my entire workstation, guys. When I'm making a card, that is all the space I have. But I really like the way these turned out. I really like that they weren't perfect. And I can't think of anybody who wouldn't love to get that. So for the grandmothers, I simply wrote the word grand on top of the word, above the mom. And I did that with one of my markers. And then the other two are going for my sister and my niece, and I think they're all going to love it. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that you'll join me again next time. You have a blessed day. Bye.